Howdy folks, Brian Cusco here at Triple B, and we've got Mr. Ryan McVeigh on today. Just watch. Well, I mean, we've talked about this stuff quite a bit at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you and I have at least, and I'm super excited for you. You're clearly excited about what you got going on.
It's unreal.
Yeah. And it's weird because I know like your whole 5-year plan now. So it's like, naturally I'm like, I don't need to ask you anything. I could literally take your company and run it now with all the information you've given me. However,
but you wouldn't have that McVeigh special sauce.
No, there's no way I could do it like you. It's just not possible. I'm too much me.
No, it's Erica McVeigh, not Ryan. I really don't do much.
That's probably
she's the brains and the looks. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's reasonable.
I'm gonna. Well, she is very smart.
Yeah.
She's a very incredibly intelligent woman. Why are you so excited about what's going to happen in the next 5 years in your life?
Because I've had a very big change in the way that I look at the hobby and how we keep the animals, and I'm not happy with it. And I think we can do better. And I realized that because of the way, after being with Zilla for 6 years, seeing the industry, where it's at when people are entering the big companies, all of it, seeing how that all works, we're never going to move in the right direction if we're waiting on the major companies to do it. And it's not because they don't care. It's because their focus is entry-level, getting people into the hobby. And the reptile industry never took a step past that. So think about aquatics. You get in your guppy kit, then you go into like your bigger fish tank, maybe like cichlids, then you go into saltwater, and you can go from a 10-gallon tank with a little light and some guppies up to a 300-gallon tank that costs $20,000 with Kessel lighting for, you know what I mean? In the reptile hobby, you can buy a $10,000 snake or a $20 gecko and then put the same lights on it and the same heat and the same box that we use for everything. And we're not really advancing the hobby. For 40 years, the industry has hodgepodged what we could find to force a square peg into a round hole to work for us. But the science and the technology and the innovation and the ideas and how everything works around us, we are stagnated in decades behind where we could be. And the major companies have a hard time getting those products that are innovative and really technological out to the entry-level person, one, to try and get them to understand, but also because the way that they mark up and margin happens in the transportation through distribution systems, it keeps adding on margin to the point where that product just becomes too expensive for the average person to reach. I don't have to do that. So we were able to take a look at it, and we're looking at direct to the consumer. How can we make something, get it to you, and get it right to you to cut out any other costs for transportation, distribution, all of that, and allow you to have access at a reasonable price to technology that otherwise you wouldn't have, so that you can do better by your animals. That's the whole goal of VivTech as a company. And the first thing we started with looking at was UVB, because UV lighting is the biggest problem, in my opinion, in the hobby. We don't have good lights. The best lights out there still don't produce almost any of the UVA that they need. The UVB is good enough, but it's not great. It's nothing compared to sunlight. We're not even working to get better at that. Like, we're just continuing to create the same things in a different box. And when I was with Zilla, I didn't do that. I don't do Me Too. If I'm going to do something that already exists, I'm going to improve it, make it better, and then reimagine it to do what we want it to do. Not just say, a humid hide with some moss and it's good enough. What if we could make it what if we could add heat to it and lights, and we could really make that they spend so much time in there. We're using something that you can't manage the habitat. You take a Tupperware and put a hole in it with some moss, and that's their humid hide. That's where they spend all their time. So why wouldn't we reimagine it? How can we actually give them something that they can use, but provide them with everything that they need in a way that's more natural? And that's what the hobby should be about, and I just don't see people doing it. So we're going to do it.
The lights are obviously grounds. You have them here at the show.
Yep.
They're the groundbreaking product for the company.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like they're already... I just got one myself. I'm about to put the first one over one of my enclosures.
For sure.
I'm planning to, like you recommended, before I turn it on, I'm going to get the camera set up just to see how the animal's going to react.
That's the thing. That's the craziest part. Like, look, we designed these bulbs. I saw the spectrums. I know how they work. I've tested them all. We have them on site. We've done all the testing, done all the research on it. And I knew we needed to expand the UVA spectrum, so we did. It's nice and wide. I know what UVA does. I know how it relates to the animals. I've read more studies than think I've read more scientific studies on UVA than anything collectively I've ever read before. So that's just what I've focused on for the last decade, because I know there's more to it and we're missing so much. So with UVA, these other bulbs they produce these tiny little spikes, but they don't cover the whole spectrum. This bulb does, and it's causing, animals can see it. I was telling you about the spinulosus. I turned it on my Varanus spinulosus, a spiny neck mangrove monitor. He froze the second the light turned on. It caught his eye. He stared at it with one eye. His eye dilated. He was analyzing it. Then he switched his eye to the other side, was analyzing it that way. And then he walked straight at it with his head cocked, with his eye straight. It wasn't like, I think that's what it was very evident that he was focused directly on that light. And then he walked straight at it. And his basking rock hide thing, he went up to it and he started putting his face against it, within an inch away, and his eye looking straight at this rock he's had for 2.5 years. It's not new. And he was analyzing it and looking at it like he'd never seen it before. Then he climbed up on it, flattened completely out, arced his back at the light, and went into a natural basking response. What you see in the wild when you find fence lizards and stuff, and I've never seen it in captivity under any lights. And he did it the second it turned on. It was incredible. It was one of the highlights of my entire reptile keeping career to see that natural behavior happen.
It's wild.
It's unreal. And I've gotten comments from people on our Facebook page and messages saying that they're doing that. Somebody said they put a bearded dragon 55-gallon tank. He was sitting on the left side, just chilling. Has T5 HO on top, has a heat light. Well, she wanted to try the LED. So she turned it on, and the minute she turned it on, that beardy was sitting there all day and not doing anything. He stood up, walked across, flattened out, went dark, opened his mouth, and basked under it. In a natural, like what you see when you guys are out in Australia and you see them stance out like that, or you see in the pictures and stuff. That's how they do it. When you see beardies in captivity and they're just flopped over there laying, they don't do that in the wild. That's not natural. But they're not getting those hormonal triggers that say, I need to be in that light, and I need to spread out. And that's what this bulb is doing, and it's the most fascinating, awesome thing I've ever seen.
And it's tiny. You could fit it in your pocket.
Yeah.
Run it into any socket.
You could drop it on concrete. It has aluminum housing, and it lasts 4.5 years.
And never loses.
And never degrades. That's that non-degrading thing. It's a cool thing. Everybody's like, oh, that's kind of cool that it doesn't degrade. That is the best thing about this bulb, period. That's what's going to save the industry, is the fact that these don't degrade. Because in what world, think of one thing in your life that you replace when it's just as good and works the same way as the day you got it. And it's still working. What do you throw away that's still working and is just like the day you got it? Nothing. That's counterintuitive to our entire life. But then as a reptile industry, we put out these bulbs that put out a wavelength that you can't see, and it slowly degrades over time, but the bulb won't go out, and there's no way for you to tell that without a $300 meter. Good luck. Why would mom and the family with their own bearded dragon, or maybe their whatever, why would they ever think to change that?
If the light is still turning on.
Exactly. They don't understand it. And you can't see that light, so you can't tell that it's worse. And the animal slowly suffers because of it, because they're under a false idea that it's working. This bulb negates all of that. If it's on, it's working. And that's the big game changer. That's going to save the lives of so many animals.
Well, if that bulb is how it is now, and it's just the groundbreaking product from your company, then everything that's going to come forward, I imagine, is just going to compound and compound. And
this is insanely cool. I would consider these bulbs probably one of the most innovative things since UVB was invented in '93 by Gary at ZoomEd. This is the next step because it covers so much more, and it really is going to open us up to those animals and their natural behaviors and natural instincts and hormonal changes and all this stuff that they do. But it's not even close to the coolest thing I'm working on. Someday, Brian, I'm going to sell you a box, and you're going to take it home, and you're going to plug it in, and you're going to turn it on, and you're going to open an app on your phone, and it's going to be a VivTech app. It's going to be gorgeous. And you're going to take it, connect it to the box, put what kind of animals in there, and the whole thing's going to run itself. And the app's going to give you alerts. Feed your animal. Your leopard gecko is 2 years old. He should eat three crickets. He can eat 3 cresties, I guess. But 3 crickets Monday, and Wednesday he should eat 3 more. And we can put all the knowledge we have with Erica's background and all the nutritionists we know. We can take all that collective knowledge and we can feed it to people in a way that is easy for them to access. I'm done trying to say people need to research. They need to research better. They do, but the problem is fundamentally we've taken away any kind of trigger or thing that tells you as a consumer, I need to know more. We sell you a kit that says complete bearded dragon kit. What part of the words complete bearded dragon kit says you might need more? Nothing.
And you're talking about being able to even control the barometric pressure inside the enclosures. This, to me, is...
That's a goal for me. And my background... So this is the thing. I'm a reptile nerd. I've spent my life researching reptiles and biology and how they work. And on the back end, my, professional career was engineering and HVAC. I can design the HVAC to cool and heat this entire building, and I can make it zero energy and work off water and treat water. That's what my whole background's in. It's thermodynamics and wastewater treatment. That's fish tanks and reptiles. It ends up that that's how I think. I think that's one of the things of why I like reptiles and thermodynamics and heat transfer and stuff. It all just makes sense to me. And the fact that reptiles exist in that world, they just make sense to me. And I think that's what's giving me just a different look at how I look at the hobby and the animals versus how everybody else looks at it.
Well, I'm excited to put this bulb in my enclosure when I get home.
Yeah.
And then I'm excited for everything else that you're going to release after that so I can try that stuff out too.
The way I look at it is for 40 years, like I said, we've been MacGyvering stuff to just make it work. We have the technology, we have the knowledge, we have the resources. I'm scrapping everything and I'm starting over. From the science, if I was going to based on all the science we have and the knowledge we have about these animals and how they live, what would I make their cage look like? What would I make their habitat look like? Where do they spend the most time? What's important to their well-being based on what we know? And let's design it for that, not just, fish tanks are a glass box and we can put them in a glass box, so we'll just do that. But now that box is just a containment thing. There's no husbandry, it's just containment. Why don't we build the husbandry and the natural behaviors and instincts into that habitat? That's going to help other people be more successful. It's going to help entry-level people be more successful. And it's going to help us see things in these animals that you'll never see under all the other lights and all the other care equipment. Beardies don't just lay in a pile, ever. They dig, they burrow, they forage, they look for mates, then they come out and bask, and then they run over here. They don't just lay there like a huge turd and they don't do that.
Right.
But in captivity, that's what they do. And we're giving them the UVB and we're giving them the heat, but we're still missing so much if that's how they're living their life. There's something not happening. And a lot of it really comes down to that UVA and the hormonal triggers, but there's other pieces that I think we're not looking at. And there's nutritional stuff that I'm looking at that I'm looking at this in a way that people aren't. Look at an animal in the wild, when it rains, all the microparticles of dust that are on the leaves that they eat or that they drink, they're getting nutrients that we don't even think about. And our supplementation is they need calcium or they'll die, so we'll give them that. They need vitamin A or they'll die, so we'll give them that. Well, we'll put out all the stuff that's in the water in parts per billion that we don't even think about, that's affecting their body, it's affecting the way that they live. But it's not a major they need it or they'll die, so we're not really paying attention to it. It's the same thing with UVA. That was my fight with UVA for so long, is they don't need it. Well, yeah, they don't need it to live, but is that your standard of care, dude? Not dead? Because if your standard of care is not dead, well, one, give up your animals and stop being the reason that the hobby sucks. And two, everybody wants to do better than that. But the equipment that we have and what we have available, even when you do bioactive and you make it gorgeous, you're still making the same cage with the same stuff. You're just making it live. But you're still not doing anything to take over to talk about the fact that that thing's height is 5%, where it spends 95% of its time is 5% of its cage.
That's the big thing about your enclosure, right? Make the enclosure the hide and then a little bit
and work around, keep building it out from there and see how. I don't know what it's going to look like. I got some ideas and I'm playing with it. And I'm just going to take a lot of renditions and iterations to get there and playing with it. But I don't see why we can't do that. And if no one wants to put the time and effort in to do that because it's cheaper to just grab some crap, throw your name on it, and stick it in a shelf, they can keep doing that. The hobby will die. The hobby will die if we keep doing that. And that's what we're fighting. US Arc is fighting the fact that we don't have the equipment. Realistically, the part of it is we don't have the equipment to do the best we can by the animals, and we have to accept that. We have to accept it, but we have to admit it. We could always be doing phenomenally better. We have so much growth for our hobby. But we're relying on people who aren't putting in the work to let us do that. And that was a changing point for me. With everything that I did when I was at Zillow, with my abilities and all I saw, I'm just going to be that.
Do it, bro. I'm excited. Thank you for watching, and I mean, I'm excited. Are you excited? I'm excited. I'm gonna go buy another bulb right now. We're gonna have a Zoom call with Ryan tonight, Q&A. Link down in the description if you want to jump on and have the Q&A with us. We do it every week, and yeah, thank you for watching Triple B TV. Y'all take care.
I didn't even have a chance to get over here the whole fucking weekend. You want to interview me and talk about VivTech. So here's Cusco.
Dave, I got to do this interview. I got to do this interview so that we can
get the fuck out.
Yeah, so we can break down and leave.
Yeah, no worries, bro. I thought I might catch you on the car ride home.
Oh yeah. Oh, you want me to call you when I'm on my car at home?
Sure.
All right, I'll do that.
All right, brother.
Hi, man.
See you soon.
Bye.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah. This has fired me up.
I know. I saw it's quite apparent.
Dude, it's
quite
fired,
apparent, dude.
We did an interview back when I started with Zillow.
I know.
And that was this kind of energy. And years later, it was just, you know. And I got out of there, and my anxiety and everything. I've kind of like I drove out here. I drove through the mountains, and it just freed my brain, and all that wave of pent up passion just came right back and slapped me in the face, and then I barfed it all over everyone at the show for 2 days. You know, like. But that's what's happening. That's what we're gonna do. And Erica's doing the same thing. My marketing director, Justine Labello, she's all day, every day, trying to figure out ways to keep growing and going and getting out to people. And we're just, you don't change the world sitting around.
It's true, man.
Yeah.
You're doing it. Freaking kill it, dude. Kill it.
Absolutely, brother.
I'm gonna go get another bulb.